John, just to start really at the beginning of the project, it's called the Valtari Mystery Film Experiment.
Yeah.
What is you don't know that?
No.
What's the mystery? What's the mystery in that title?
Well, we're in a way it's tautological because the experiment bit and the mystery bit kind of double up. Really, it's is it a mystery? Is it an experiment? We didn't know what we gave people money. We didn't ask them to do anything. We just said do whatever you want with the money. So it was both a mystery and an experiment.
And this was a completely open brief to the filmmakers.
Yes, it was a completely open brief. Yeah, I should say that maybe one of the reasons why we thought of doing this was because the record Valtari that the band made, it was made over a very long period of time. It started in 2003 at its earliest inception, and then it was planned as a double album in 2005 to go with Tack. That was the idea. That never got made, so it was put on ice, but stuff was done on the back of Tack with the 16 Choir in London, in Air Studios. We did some of the songs that you heard there, and they were again put on ice. And then when we came to the Mezz'Udierum in 2008, we recorded some more of the songs that ended up in this, but were again put on a back burner somewhere. And then for this record, they wanted to actually complete this an ambient project. So we knew we were making an ambient record. In the end, it's kind of ended up not quite as ambient as it was originally conceived. But,
that's the mystery.
Yeah, the whole project has been mysterious. And because the band, because of the way it was conceived and executed and pulled together, they felt quite weird about how they were going to explain it, because when you normally make a record, you have an idea, you go in and you record it in one go. The previous album was recorded in 10 days. This was recorded in 10 years.
Right.
So they didn't really know how to talk about it. So knowing that they didn't really want to talk about it or how to talk about it, I had the great idea of making loads of films so that we had something else that would be out in the world that would maybe save them the trouble. Okay. That's the truth. And we knew a lot of these people and a lot of other people, so that's kind of the idea behind it.
Trying to avoid sort of asking everybody the same question in turn, but how many, did you all have a sort of prior feeling for Sigur Ros's music? Did you know, who here has worked, Claire, you've worked with them before?
Yeah, I worked with them in 2007 for a project that the ICA did in Trafalgar Square, where they put 10 artists or filmmakers with bands and musicians, and I did a project called iGear with them, which was a 360-degree screening, and also I've kind of been to Iceland quite a few times and sort of have a feeling, I suppose, for the place as well as the music. So yeah, there was a connection from the beginning.
And did the rest of you have a sort of a prior knowledge of the music and just a vague sense of how their music made you feel before you sort of burrowed down and started to pick individual tracks? Did you sort of have a feeling for the band and instantly have a sort of some sort of mind state of the imagery that you'd be creating or working with? I don't know who wants to go first. It's quite tricky. Nick, you're furthest away.
Nick made a film about Tack in 2005. So I'm just giving you a cue, so you can talk about it.
Well, no, I just when you say about, because I did that partially with John, and I remember I was thinking about that earlier, because in that one we have music crescendoing and have geezers going off, which I think by now I'd kind of learnt to do something a bit, away from that. But when we did a tour film and some live stuff, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. Watching those films, have the band said what they made of the films at all? Because I mean,
they didn't like yours. They did like it.
I spoke to Caton briefly.
George really liked Alma's, I can tell you that. Right. Caton liked yours. Yeah.
And perhaps you could all talk about how you came to how you sort of settled on the song that you chose, and then how long you sort of lived with it before you actually decided, before you zeroed in on what you were going to make. I mean, was it quite a quick decision what song that you chose, and then
for me it funny. I heard it. John sent me the album and said, "Just pick anyone you want." And I heard it, and the first time I heard it, I thought that would be probably the only one I would want to do. And then I thought, oh, that's why is that the one? I was like, it's gonna be so hard because I had no lyrics and it was long, and I didn't know how I will kind of approach it. So I kind of just forgot about it for a while and tried to maybe move on.
Well, you were making a different film first, weren't you? Do you remember? You were going to film
No.
the band. You were going to
Oh
film
yeah,
the
yeah,
band.
but for that track.
Yeah, that song, but you were going to do a completely different film.
Right, right. And then I realized I still want to do that one, so I asked him. I called him and I said that that's the one I want to do, but I'm not really. I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, it's a really interesting one." And he told me the story of how it was written, which really cemented it for me, kind of, because it's so beautiful how they wrote it. It's 4 pianos, but when they wrote it, none of them heard the other ones play. So one of them, they had like a 5th track that's actually not on the song, and they played it to each one of them in earphones, and they responded to it with a piano track, and then they put the whole 4 pianos together and lifted the 5th one, so you can't really hear the track that they played to. And I thought that was really ghostly and kind of interesting, and I definitely, that kind of made me want to do it.
And how did the commission or the open brief feel different to perhaps the normal way that you'd work on a music program?
Oh, it was like, John Best is the best. It was like, do whatever you want. You don't need to tell me. And there's always this really terrible moment, even when you work with artists that you love and they love you. And like, I have relationships with, like I work with this band Beirut, and I've done a lot of videos for them, and it's a matter of also like a very trusting relationship where I don't need to pitch it and go through a commissioner and all those things, where they give you a brief and you're competing with other directors. So it wasn't like that. But even with those, there's that awkward moment when it's your friend, but you still feel like you need to hype it up a little bit and tell them how cool it's going to be. And with this, like, there was no need for that. When I think out of habit, I did it.
You did tell me how cool it was.
Yeah, and I was like, it's kind of weird. And I felt like John really feels awkward that I try to even tell him how great it would be, and I shut up. I was like, I really don't need to do anything. Wow.
Feels like you two had a lot of back and forth. I mean, did you find yourself talking to the filmmakers, John, or did you once they chose their songs, did you try and just not give them too much information about how the song was recorded or any of the background information that you seem privy to?
It was different. Some people we talked to, I kind of knew some of what Alma was doing, but not much. I knew what Claire was doing because we talked about it, and I didn't know what Melika was doing at all. But I really liked what she'd done previously, so we just left it to her.
So Melika, how did you come to choose your song, and again, how did the images?
For me, it ended up being a really good match because my films tend to be really kind of enclosed and a little introverted. So for me, I was attracted to the song because it had a sort of spiraling down. A lot of the music for me is super expansive, and so I wanted to try and capture almost what it feels like to listen to the music on the inside, not just sort of, making it a kind of expansive outside soundtrack. So I ended up working with a performer where hopefully we were creating some kind of ambiguity where you felt like the music was sort of inside of her as well as kind of accompanying what she was doing.
When you're already in the process of making films or making video art, and a commission like this comes along, is there a temptation to think, oh, this is an opportunity to try something very different and to go in a different direction with my work and perhaps and just experiment? Or do you find yourself always coming back to wanting a continuum to some extent and to kind of think to yourself, well, I want to make sure I don't make something that...
I usually try to make things pretty difficult. That's the consistent thing. I like to be a little scared when I'm making a film. And this was scary because I don't ever even use soundtracks in my work. There's music, but it's always like in the films themselves. So I was trying to embed something, again, that felt kind of like outside, inside someone. And I wanted to strip as much away as possible. So I was kind of challenging myself. I don't know about other people.
Did you feel that you could... I mean, John, was there was there complete freedom into what the filmmaker could do with the music? Because, for instance, Nick, you dropped the music out for a long time and you bring in dialogue. Was there stuff that you knew the band wouldn't want the artist or the filmmaker to do to the song, like remix it or
Yeah,
something?
they don't really like being edited. So, Ketten from the band spoke to Nick about the musical edit on his film.
But you say that, but he was totally. Yeah, but he did. We
didn't know
chatted about it, but at the same time, he kind of said, "These are my suggestions, but do what you have to do," which I thought was pretty good of him, quite trusting. And to be honest, we did take his suggestions because they were kind of good ones. But
And your film, in a way, came from a slightly different place. These were already ideas you were having, perhaps.
well, no, I mean, yes and no. I mean, the music definitely, brought up those images, but I was also working on a parallel project which kind of fed into it, yeah. But I don't know, it had to work with the music. It had to come from the music.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like even if you want to try something new, if it's not in the song, then you can't really try it. I think.
Sure.
I think the people that worked on it, for me, it was amazing to see all of it together because see it in the theater also was such a different experience. Suddenly, I liked different ones that I liked when I saw it on the computer, which was incredibly, kind of revealing. So, but I think everybody really tried to go with the music, so
Sure.
not with necessarily like a plan or an experiment.
Did any of you sort of find surprises within the song, even when you'd lived with them for a while and had started planning the films? When you actually started shooting, did you find that the song, as you started to build a film around it, sort of revealed sort of extra levels that you hadn't sort of noticed when you first had just picked it? Were there things that, did the music start to surprise you once you started putting these films together?
That's a no.
When I started to edit, I decided to break the song down in a structure, and I was completely shocked that it was really regular with every 2 bars there were these changes every 28 to 31 seconds. And when I'd been working with it, I'd been thinking it was this kind of really fluid, organic, more ambient track, but it is actually really specifically structured, and that was actually a shock. But it helped us edit a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
With the Ekimuk track, it's like the short piece I did was very narrative and it has little art, but the kind of music does too. It's like it built and I don't know. You can just take from that.
I edit before I shoot sometimes, so I really know I will edit the video, but just with cards, that say what's going to happen. I should probably do a music video like that once. It would be really economical, just descriptions of epic things happening. But that's it. So I edit it before, and then there's something about their music for me that's both really, really intimate, and then really, expensive, like epic at the same time. So that was something I really wanted to kind of, know how I'm going to get into it. So I edited it kind of before. So that really helps you to kind of get a sense, I think, of the song.
And what does the sort of band get back from a project like this? I mean, do you
do interviews.
They don't have to do interviews. But do you ever get a sense that they're inspired by what comes back, that it changes this relationship to their music, and that then next time they go out to record or to play live, they've sort of fed off the way they realise the music has been perceived, or the other relationship people have with
Yeah, I
the
think
music?
they really like the interaction. We've for quite a long time now we've tried to build a two-way sort of street back to people who listen to our music, if possible. They're not that comfortable or articulate about explaining what they do, but Jonsi was really keen on pushing it. If we did this idea, that we pushed it out so as many people could take part as possible. So they really do like the interaction. Yeah.
I mean, you've managed them now for 12 years? Or
Yeah.
Are they, that mystery that we talked about at the beginning, are they still a sort of a mystery to you? Can you kind of predict what they'll do every time there's a tour, or every time there's an album? Do you sort of kind of think, oh yeah, well, they want to do this and that, and then we'll have to make a video? Or is every time it's like, okay, so
No, you're always trying to do something that's slightly original. I think rock and roll is very boring. People just people think they form bands and then you make videos and you do all of this stuff and somebody else generally has the ideas for it and someone else does the covers. And Sigur Ros aren't like that for a start. They're very involved in what happens and they're always trying to just shake it up a little bit. I mean, inevitably when you make music, it will end up being within your oeuvre because that's the way people work. Even when they're trying to undermine their own preconceptions, you end up sounding like Sigur Ros. You know, they're making new music now, and it's different, but it's still recognisably them.